everything that I had believed prior to understanding how the world works was completely shattered. And I think in that point, my opinion, I think, shadow work is very, very important to even have this experience, but I think it's going to actually be much more, if not as important, if not as important, but much more important, dealing with what's going to go through your head after you have this experience or try to make sense of it. And that could be, I guess, maybe my dark night of the soul, because it's like, one, I had realized I've probably been lied to and misunderstood. And now I have to sit here and try to think, am I crazy and have I lost it, or am I actually onto something? And that gets scary. So like, even like progressively, or even maybe the last one, when it had brought me to that, to even going in the hospital, there was just like a lot of stuff that was shattering my ideas of existence. I don't know what it is that made me think this, but because of one of those experiences, something just popped up in my head and said, look into the eyeballs in the brain. I don't know why. And then I started looking into that, and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, there's so many sigils and symbolism in here. It's fucking insane. And then you start realizing, like, what I thought magic is, the idea that the OTO gave me or any other place, this ain't it. And I think I was a little bit resentful for that to begin with, because if what I do think is actually happening, and if I really did experience crossing the abyss, I think you should be a little bit more open about what somebody's going to go through and what their experience is going to be. Stop with so many fucking secrets. Because I don't think it's healthy for somebody to have that experience not really knowing what the fuck they're doing. Because again, if you're not mentally strong enough for it, I do think it will warp your mind and fuck you up.
Do you think that
and I'm not
we're
patting
meant to
myself on the back saying I was a gangster, because I dealt with some serious shit in my head to be able to get to where I am now after these experiences.
Hi, welcome to Beneath the Bloom. I'm Serena Saint-Sinclair. Beneath the Bloom is a passion project born from my endless curiosity about people and their stories. I am a Persephone devotee, and it is a reflection of my work with her. Beneath the Bloom follows the myth of her transformation. It starts in the meadow, then the descent into the underworld, and ultimately her sovereign return. With conversations with witches, occultists, seekers, and fellow wanderers, we explore the threads that connect us, the endurance, the reclamation, and the quiet beauty of choosing meaning in a world that often misunderstands us. Through conversation, we explore what it means to fall apart, to rediscover ourselves, and to bloom again, each in our own unique way, and somehow we all go through it collectively. Beneath the Bloom uses storytelling, humor, and raw vulnerability to explore how personal practice, shadow work, and devotion helps us bloom in the dark. These conversations are not just interviews, they're mythic maps of transformation. Hi, welcome to Beneath the Bloom, conversations rooted in personal truth, shadowed paths, and the sacred blossoming into sovereignty. Today, my guest is Nick with the Occult Rejects. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you very much for having me on. Appreciate it.
So Nick is originally from New York and now in North Carolina. He's been studying the occult for over a decade and was a member of the OTO. Is it Tahuti?
Yes, Tahuti Lodge.
Okay, Tahuti Lodge for a few years. He's big into the Kabbalah, planetary magic, and theurgy. He also tries to come from an academic and scientific angle, and it's not all dicks and demons, according to his words.
I think you're going to
Welcome
throw
on.
that in, all right?
And so I want to go ahead and start off with the meadow. Let's just go ahead and start with like, where are you from and when did you first come across the occult or become an occultist?
Ooh, like again, I originally grew up in New York. I was Suffolk County. I lived out in Ronkonkoma when I was a child. So right there, like that's even a big thing that I sometimes refer back to, even when I'm on my own show or on other shows. The fact of, I don't know if because there, Ronkonkoma was known, first off, everywhere I lived had Native American streets. So we already had the idea that was Native Americans buried underneath the houses and there might be spirits. We had Lake Ronkonkoma that had a story with it that every year the princess of the lake would take a male because of some story about wanting to marry a white guy when she was younger. The father said no, and somehow they both, almost Romeo and Juliet, both dead somehow at the end. So now she always takes a male, and as long as I lived there, that always happened. At least one dude every year drowned in that lake. So we're just like, yo, as a kid,
That's crazy.
yeah, you start thinking this stuff is like, real. So even as a child, probably with all that stuff around me, I was already open to just paranormal and myths and lore. Um, I did kind of grow up in somewhat of a religious household, and Christians slash kind of like Catholic, and I think due to that, I mean, you have to start worrying about the devil. So I mean, eventually, I'm going to get intrigued by that as well, I guess, at some point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just, I just even think that whole dichotomy of that whole situation that just made me very interested in everything. Like, well, well, who's this character that supposedly is going to, make me do all these bad things? So just even as a grown up, as a kid growing up, I think I was just very interested in just the idea of heaven and hell. I believed again, like in the paranormal. My father and mother even believed in ghosts. They thought the house might have been haunted at times. So all that stuff, I'm sure, had something to do with just me being open to unusual things, I guess, or not the normal. Um, there was at times there was satanic panic in our neighborhood too, believe it or not, growing up. So again, like this stuff is in my face, and I guess as a child, I was a little bit more inquisitive than scared, to where I was like, "Oh, what is this stuff? Like, what's going on? Why is that bad?" I'm not saying it's not bad. I want to know like what it is. What is it that makes that bad? And I mean, to the point where it's like even a few houses down. Looking at it now, I couldn't tell you if they were satanic. I mean, even that word itself. I mean, it's whatever. You know what I'm getting at. The way people
Yeah,
take that word is
of
wrong, I think,
course.
in my opinion. But growing up, I thought they were satanic because like they had cars that literally had sigils spray painted on them, and you'd hear them blasting. Well, actually playing. They had a band playing death metal out of the house. So to me, I'm thinking this is like basically Morbid Angel lives down the block from me, and I got Satanist. And your parents are telling you, the neighbors are talking about it. These people are weird. So
Yeah.
like, I even think I got Satanists living on my block. And then at one point down the road, crazy story, people can look it up. In Ronkonkoma, some kid thought Dungeons and Dragons told him to kill his parents, so he offed one of them.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
Okay.
now we got like Dungeons and Dragons, and this occult game that's telling kids to kill people is actually doing it. Well, the kid was probably sick anyway, but you know what I'm saying, like.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
got that going on. And then, no lie, 2 years later, this is the craziest thing. That house that kid did that in was on a corner house at a light. A couple of years later, somebody blew the light and ended up in an accident and went into the house and killed the rest of the people he didn't kill.
Are
You're
you
just like,
serious?
what just
Like
happened?
they hit them with a car?
Get through the house,
What? That's
coming through the house
crazy.
and killed people. It was
Did
just
he
like,
die too?
no, he was in jail.
Oh, okay. Oh my
Well, if
gosh.
he wasn't in jail, he wasn't in that house anymore. I can tell you that. You know,
Wow,
I
that's
mean, he
really
was young enough to
scary.
maybe went into like a mental institute instead of jail. I don't know because
Yeah. How
happened.
old were you?
Mm. This might have been before my teens.
Oh, that's really scary and
That's what I'm
traumatic.
saying. Like, yeah, yeah. There was one time where animals were going missing in a neighborhood, and the whole rumor was is that the Satanists were killing them. And who knows even what it was. I don't. Maybe people's animals were just. I mean, our dog maybe just hopped the fence and didn't come back. That what I'm saying. That's like quite possible.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
just having all this stuff in my life growing up, especially with
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, Satan, Satan, Satan. I guess I'm in North Carolina. It's also considered the biggest occult state, I think, in the country. And I think it's due to the fact that, I mean, you have the Bible Belt going through here. When you have something forced in your face, it's just going to be a reaction at some point to go to the complete opposite or be intrigued by the other end. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what happened to me, having that stuff constantly in my face. I just got interested in all of it. So, like, long story short, throughout school, I was interested in, paranormal, UFOs, Bigfoot, stuff like that. I had a few friends that were considered themselves Wiccan, and I thought they were pretty cool. And like, I would talk to them sometimes and ask them about their stuff. I thought it was really interesting, but I guess like, neither maybe afraid to get into it or just whatever. Got other stuff. I'd rather play my guitar. I don't know, stuff like that. But eventually, like, fast forward, probably like into my mid 20s, I started getting a little bit more into like conspiracy stuff. But like the stuff I came across was more like Michael Tsarian, uh, oh, who's that other? Mark Passio, David Icke, Jordan Maxwell, people that people that kind of heavily touch on the occult anyway, and may not necessarily always do it in a bad light either. Um, that interested me a lot more when I started getting into the cult. because I did believe, going back to when I was in school, I did believe that these people that were into that stuff were probably legit. So I believe that it actually works. I believe the stuff was real because it was throughout my face, honestly. Even like I'm talking about this supposed Satanist down the road. I'm already, due to all that, I believe this stuff is real. So I'm taking the occult as, real, which, it is to me. So I got interested in that stuff and listened to a lot of things, a lot of lectures, a lot of podcasts. Well, there really wasn't podcasts back then, actually. It was more of like long form YouTube videos, really. And I got into this stuff, would research on my own just to look up different things. And after a while, at some point, I was like, I know all these orders, I know all these names, and all these supposed bad people. Have zero clue what the hell magic still is. I have no idea.
Hmm.
So like, where's this getting me? Because I actually want to try to understand what is magic, what's the occult, like what's going on there. So I was like, maybe I should actually like join an order, and
How
now
old were you at this time?
this time, yeah, now at this point, I'm into my 30s at some point.
Okay.
And yeah, I was started thinking maybe I should like try to like visit one of these places, and at this point already, okay, at this point, I had have already bought books. I think I had Donald Michael Craig's Lessons in Ceremonial Magic or Lessons in Magic, whatever that book is. I had that book. I had a few other books that I was already reading, already starting to practice like certain things. And I started, I can't remember exactly because I don't want to make a wrong accusation on somebody, but somebody's work that had Liber Resh in it did not match Crowley's Liber Resh. It, like, one of the things was moved around, and I was like, well, why? That's not the original thing. Like, so like now I'm thinking in my head, like, can I not even trust books and I got to go to the orders themselves and actually have somebody there explain this stuff to me?
Yeah.
I start thinking like maybe I should get involved and learn from other people and have people to learn from. I mean, have people to talk to too and stuff. Um, and so I started looking, and there was some people that I knew that were already in the community from being in like Facebook groups or just like on social media, kind of like lurking and just talking to a few people here and there.
Hmm.
And I knew somebody was in the Masons, and they were like, dude, like you're gonna waste your time for a long time before you can even start getting into rituals because they're not even gonna act like that shit exists until at a certain degree. So I was like, all right, just screw that. There wasn't a Golden Dawn near me. I actually would have probably have preferred that, or that's what I was looking more for, because I thought it might have been a little bit more like academic or a little bit more studious. And but then I happened to notice, well, there's an OTO lodge 25 minutes away from my house. I was like, all right. I was like, I've read Crowley's stuff. I even read some. What's interesting? He has a lot of shit in prison, believe it or not. I was in prison at one point, and he had tons of stuff, that guy's books floating around. I had heard of him prior to then, but I had come across more of his stuff in there and read it and still thought it was just like, this shit's nonsense. It makes no fucking sense to me. I actually thought it was a bunch of garbage. And I was like, I don't get it. But then I was like, still eventually, like, when I was out of prison and started getting into practicing more, and when I came across the OTO and his work, some reason at that point I was like, yeah, there's something here. I just don't think I was able to even conceive what the guy was talking about then. So I was like, I'll try the OTO. It had a little bit more of it's maybe a little bit more different imagery than I was looking for. It's a little bit more darker looking, but I was like, oh fuck it, I'll try it out. And then when I got there, I was like, oh, these people are all like harmless, nice people. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all just nerds like me, honestly. And so yeah, so but eventually, I was like, you know what? Let me hit this place up. And these secret societies aren't as secret as people think they are, or at least hiding themselves. Maybe they're mysteries of mysteries. They might keep secret, like the stuff that you can learn, but their existence, they don't hide it. So it was real easy. I mean, I'm sure you would know. It's real easy to go find these places if you want to go find them. They
Yeah.
hide
Especially
themselves.
with social media these days.
Yeah, well, they also they want people to come there too. They have bills to pay. Like, what I'm saying? Like, it would
Hmm.
help. So I found Tahuti Lodge, and I was like, oh, I'll go to a Gnostic mass. And I think there was one like a month away, which Tahuti Lodge has like every weekend. Very active lodge, a lot of people. And I will say the Gnostic mass is done correct there. I'll give them that too. We were talking about that earlier. Um,
Hmm.
when I hit them up, they were like, "That's a month from now." They're like, "Just hit us up again, and we'll give you directions on how to get here when you want to come." I was like, "All right, not a problem." So at that point, I had even watched the Gnostic Mass on YouTube. Checked it out. I was like, "Oh, yes, no problem. This looks a little weird, or well, looks a little weird maybe to other people, but to me, I was just like, yeah, this is no big deal. I can handle this."
Mhm.
And I went eventually. I hit them up, I think a couple of days before the Gnostic Mass, and then they had given me directions or, the address and stuff and let me know how to get there. I will say, first going there, I don't want to give like too much away. I don't know how they are with like talking about them, specifically, but like the setup was weird because it was in like an apartment building. So you can't just walk in. There's a gated, it's like a gated place. So in the directions, it tells you like, across the street from the lodge, there's a park. Go sit at the bench, and like there'll be people out there. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck? So then like I'm like driving and I'm parking and I'm like walking down the road and I'm just gonna keep it real. I saw like a group of looked like goth kids and I was like, oh, that's gotta be
Yeah.
yeah. They're all wearing black, it's probably the guy, the people there. So I walked over and just hung out and then I saw a guy come out with the key unlocking the gate, like, all right, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. You can't just walk in. It almost made me feel a little bit safe, actually. I know some crazy guy, if you want to get some school shooters showing up, he's probably not going to get in right away, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but, so I was like, all right, that made sense. But at the first, at the beginning, I was already like, okay, this is getting weird. But, so I finally went downstairs, hung out, you hang out in the main room for a while. And then, you know, people bullshitting. I'm sitting there just nervous, like, what the fuck am I doing here? And the band starts up. And I will say, for people like, yeah, I'm not vanilla, but it did freak me out because I was like, okay, on YouTube, they don't show titties.
Hmm.
So when that shit came out, I was just like, oh, what the fuck's going on now? I was like, yo, if this shit turns into Eyes Wide Shut, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And I'm like, like literally, I'm like standing there. You haven't been to a mass, so like you don't know what it
No,
looks
I
like.
haven't.
Like two rows of people, and then you have everything going up there. And I'm like kind of in the back. So it's just I just got this whole view, and I'm just like, yeah, like I'm really here right now.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like, this is
happening.
fucking happening. And I was like, and 2 weeks later I went back. So
The titties didn't deter you.
no, I will say, and I don't know if maybe she was smart about it too. The priestess, the one with the tits out, approached me after the fact and was like, we do classes. So I don't know if it was already like, that uncomfortable, weird situation, or maybe she thought I might have enjoyed what I saw. Who knows? Was trying to like at least talk to me and tell me that there's other things here besides this. We have some classes. Sometimes we cover people's history. And I was like, you know what? I think I'll come back for something else.
Hmm.
And I did. And I thought it was really good. So I was like, you know what? I think I'll just stay and I'll get used to the uncomfortability of just random boobs coming out. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I mean, it's normally not a thing a guy normally complains about, but it was just, it was just, it was a little weird in the
I
setting.
mean, it's still jarring if you're not
Yeah.
expecting it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was just like, whoa. I was like, oh, I should have watched the other one on Vimeo. Yeah. But yeah, but I eventually stayed, did a couple of initiations, met a few good people, some that I still actually keep in contact with. Uh, yeah, I mean, I had my own. I eventually, and I just, eventually, COVID came, and that was just a huge, horrible, big issue. So, I mean, eventually, I just kind of left anyway. Don't know
Hmm.
if you want to get into that or not, but I could be as nice as possible about it. But I just didn't feel like it was really a place for me that much anymore. And it is
Okay.
considered a situation. It was like, well, you're not even open, so what the fuck's the point? Uh,
Yeah.
I eventually just stopped going and just kind of went off on my own with my own experiences that I started to have. I mean, I do make the claim, and I do believe that I have crossed to the abyss. So at that point, I was just like, what do I need to go back there for anyway? Like that happened why I wasn't going there because for a while, because of COVID or just not being interested in that place as much, I wasn't going, and I was doing a lot more stuff at home,
Hmm.
a lot of shadow work, rituals, theurgy, and I eventually had my own experience, and that kind of was just like, I don't know how to say this without it. Like, I don't want it to come out the wrong way, because again, there is really, the people there are really good people, and they're just looking for something, and most of them are nerds. But I feel like some of these organizations, unfortunately, kind of hand you or give you the image of the vices and not the virtues. And I just felt for myself at that time, I just didn't see that place offering me anything that much anymore. So I left. That's all. And still talk to people from there. Have people on my show that are associated with that place. So it's it's just for me.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, and I will say I'm very glad that that experience happened because
Hmm.
I know who I am, what I want, and what I don't want now. So, it's all learning. It all needed to happen, in my opinion, for me to be who I am today.
Yeah, I'm sure you learned a lot from the process. It doesn't have to
Oh,
be,
yeah.
it doesn't have to, you don't have to be a part of something for forever for it to be meaningful and impactful. And I think that it's an important skill to learn when something isn't right for you anymore.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, but
And
there's definitely people there that I will never forget that have definitely like left an impact on my occult life.
yeah, especially if you saw titties for the first
Yeah.
time, you're like, okay, this is
Yeah.
an impact for sure.
Yeah.
Do you still find ways of finding community now, or do you miss having community? Are you like
Uh,
a solo practitioner and you prefer that?
you know what? That has changed over time. When I first left, I don't know. I think I had misdirected anger and or resentment, and I kind of like put myself away from like not just the OTO, but like all magical community,
Mm,
and kind of just like started podcasting. And due to that, I kind of tried to start off in the conspiracy community first,
hmm.
trying to like decode and like, from my experience, this is one thing I'll say. From my experience with crossing the abyss, I feel like that is the only time I actually understood what my true will is. I do believe this may sound corny to come from an occultist, but I do believe I actually have a mission from God or I have a purpose. And my purpose is to help people understand the occult and know that it's not all just dicks and demons, that there's science in there and it can actually bring you to have an experience with God and change you for better.
Hmm.
And that's what I want to do. So I kind of tried to do that in the occult community, the conspiracy community first, uh, to, because it's extremely like demonized, the occult. I mean, everything is blamed on fucking Aleister Crowley and John D.
Hmm.
Everything's satanic, everything's molesting kids. It's just, they have, like, I'll be totally honest with you. People in the conspiracy community actually probably think about sick shit in their head more than the fucking worst occultists do.
Hmm.
They
What?
obsess over everybody doing this stuff that it's all they think about.
That's an
you know,
interesting point.
I
Yeah.
mean, put it this way, and there's people that I'm actually close to that I may not like their style, but if you're going to talk about Aleister Crowley and Michael Aquino all day, and you're going to talk about these supposed horrific things that they did, if those aren't true, you're actually painting pictures in people's heads of some horrific shit for no reason. You are actually fucking worse than those men are. You're putting horrid ideas in people's heads that aren't even real because you want money and clicks. That's sick. That's black magic.
Hmm.
But so I wanted to try to change a little bit of that, and lighten it up. And I do think it has helped, or at least in the area that I am. And I mean, there's
Hmm.
so many different cliques and different groups and circles within the occult and conspiracy community. But I have definitely impacted a decent amount of people, and to the point to where I started feeling more comfortable, even within the time of me having that magical experience and starting my podcast. I may not have been so much into ritual stuff, but I have continued to study, especially, Kabbalah, and, looking at people from the 15, 1600s, 1200s, Empedocles, even older, the BC, looking at what they were looking at and studying and try to get into that, which is another reason why I do get into physiology a lot, because why are these people looking at the brain, the nervous system, and the eyeballs? There's a reason for it. I started getting into that and studying that a lot. And eventually I felt more comfortable enough to even show up more in the occult community and say, I actually think I have something to say that you should listen to. For conspiracy theorists, I thought it was a little bit easier because they have zero fucking clue half the time what they're talking about. So I figured I just got to say a few words that they don't even understand and they'll think I'm smart. I'm trying to sound like an asshole. I could just say a couple of spears off the Kabbalistic tree and they'll be like, what the fuck was that? You're speaking of,
Yeah.
they'll be like, oh, this guy's drunk. This guy's cooking with gas. You know, No, I've literally had people on my show. Like I have so many co-hosts, or I used to, that like there was one or two people who were not into this stuff, and I had me and one of my co-hosts on that are, and we had to do it on for the Goetia. And the whole time we were talking and saying shit, the other two people had nothing to say because they literally had no idea what the fuck we were saying. Again, so eventually, again, I felt more comfortable being myself, or I was a little bit more educated in the field of the occult. So I was like, you know what, that and it just I felt like that I was covering the occult enough to where I could start really segueing into that community, which I've really only been doing like the last year, to tell you the truth, the last 8 months. So it's like even that's meeting you and Ivy is like kind of fairly new for this whole thing. Um, but yeah, so I started feeling a little bit more confident in that, and kind of since then, I mean, it's kind of been like full steam ahead. I mean, a lot of the people on the show, I mean, we're all at this point now, everybody on the show is actually practicing people. We all practice. We all have our own different beliefs too. We don't all follow the same pantheons. We don't all talk about the same gods. There's people on my show that the physiology, the eyeballs in the brain, not even a thought of theirs. I mean, they find what I say is interesting, but that's not what they spend time on. They may want to spend time on the gods, or other things, or alchemy. One of my guys on my show is doing an alchemy show now every Monday. The guys are, doing something. I'm waiting for them to blow themselves up at one point. But like another guy on my show, he's into Buddhism. You know what I'm saying? Like we all have all our different areas, and between all of us, I think that we actually can provide a very comprehensive look at the topics that we do. One of the ways I try to like make a joke about it, two ways. Wu-Tang of the occult or conspiracies, where you have everybody's that's got their own thing to add, and we just put it together and you get one badass track.
Yeah.
Or Crowley's 777, how you have all the different associations in there of a way to look at that. I'll
Hmm.
have this person who's into the Greek pantheon, me into the Egyptian, my friend who's into the Buddhism. Well, you know what I'm saying? You're starting to get all the associations that way. So you have different ways of looking at it. Because I do believe in the past, like when I was mentioning with these older people, they were all polymaths. Our school system isn't even designed for us to be polymaths anymore. We're just screwed because these polymaths, besides the occult, again, they're adding music into it, the music of the spheres. I mean, that was huge. Uh, Again, the eyeballs, the brain, the nervous system. I mean, I think, Saint Hildegard, unfortunately, Catholic Church, she was a saint, but she was also an alchemist. If it wasn't for her, Iron Maiden not be here because she invented harmonizing. She had women singing for her, and she noticed if you took one chick, one ladies on this side and one ladies on this side, and changed the octave, you were like, "Wow, this sounds amazing." These people handed us the world that we're living in now, and I forgot where I was going with that. Sorry.
You still consider yourself a Thelemite, right?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately,
I asked Lynn that too, and that was kind of a similar answer. Like,
yeah.
what?
Well, and I'm gonna keep it real right now. This may even rustle some feathers, but it is what it is. Again, I look at the occult, from a lot of angles, but I am more, my opinion. There's a lot of symbolism in the occult that references the eyeballs in the brain. Um, I try to look at it that way. I do believe Aleister Crowley was doing the same thing. A lot of people in the organization, for some reason, would rather that guy be known as some drug addict sex fiend than being intelligent. I don't get that. Your order already has a bad name, and you resist on making this guy actually seem smart to where any Thelemite I talk to, they think I'm fucking crazy. And it's like, yo, I'm sorry. I actually want to give your fucking God that you all put up on a pedestal actually saying that he might have been saying something really fucking intelligent, and you don't want to give the guy credit.
Mm.
So, I mean, the fact of just the way the organization's looked at and the way the people in the organization seem to want this guy to be continuously looked at, it's almost embarrassing to say you're a part of it. Which maybe that's why Lynn, I don't know why her situation is. But for me, it's due to the way society looks at that organization and due to the people in that organization that want to keep it looking screwed up for some fucking silly reason. It's uncomfortable to say that, yes, I am a Thelemite. I do think Aleister Crowley was onto something. I could care less what he did in his personal life. I don't care who sucked his dick or who he fucked. I don't care. I want to know what the hell that guy was doing with the occult because I think he was a genius when it came to it.
Hmm.
I've looked at his papers in Austin, Texas, The Voice and the Vision. When you see the amount of gematria that guy was doing, his shit is ciphered. This guy was saying a lot of stuff. People don't even want to give him that credit that much, even in the order. When you look at him putting rows on the side and doing the math for it because he's sticking it inside his book, he's not talking about his girlfriend anymore. I hate to tell you, bro. He's doing something else in there, and that's why I would consider myself a Thelmite in a sense, is because I do think whatever he was doing in the occult, that man was onto something, and I'm interested in what the fuck he was saying.
I'm interested in your opinion where
And I
um
want real quick. I know it's just screwed up, but messed up it is. Not that I'm trying to say this guy was better, but I think I at least want to give the guy a little bit better of an image, saying this dude wasn't saying fucking babble. He was saying something deep. He wasn't just a degenerate pervert. He put that shit in ciphers so you get disgusted and don't even look at it. Only the people who don't fear will find what he was saying.
hmm, my next question for you is why do you think that because now I'm having back-to-back episodes with people who are a little bit disenchanted with the OTO. I'm curious about your opinion and why you think that is. Like there's something happening here, at least like from my experience and the people I've talked to.
Ooh, I don't know. I want to try to answer this, I think, like in the nicest way.
And you don't have to answer it if you don't want
No,
to.
no, I want to. One, I will take, I can't say the quote exactly, but quote Crowley in one way, and I think this is an issue with the OTO. It confusing sympathy for empathy, or people being sympathetic instead of empathetic is going to fucking ruin humanity. That order has seemed to want to focus more on, I think, feelings and other people than actually what magic is. I don't know any other way to say it without starting to get too detailed.
I don't think I understand. What is the
All right.
issue
Well,
in
one
confusing
thing.
the two?
All right. Just like the AA, the OTO shouldn't be actually worried about anything outside of that organization. So, in my opinion, you should not be sending me a Zoom meeting to talk about the George Floyd situation. Why is that a Zoom meeting for the OTO? Why are we talking about racism and Antifa? It has nothing to do to the OTO. That man, whatever happened, I'm just keeping it real, regardless of what you saw was even real, instead of Nazi magic, uh, doesn't affect my will, unfortunately.
But I would argue it doesn't affect you because you're a white man.
If I was black, it still would affect me because I was the one on the floor.
What do you mean?
That didn't happen to me.
So when other people get hurt, it doesn't affect you?
No, it can, but to the point to where I'm going to forget myself. No,
You don't think that you can
there's,
both stand up for other people and
yeah, you
also
can. Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I
so
do
I'm
that
con
now for myself for occultists, but I'm not. It's just, I'll put it this way. If when I was there, they started talking about the soldier boys, I would have told them to shut the fuck up.
I don't know what that is.
Well, that's a right wing group. I don't want
Okay.
to hear politics in a fucking place that's supposed to be about magic
You
because all
don't
that's
think
going to
that
do is create division. Division. And all this does, all politics does is create division and hate. If you're an actual magician, you should realize this fucking shit slavery. Why am I paying attention to it?
mm, you don't think that the
That
political
shit's being
sphere
handed
and
to us to
magic
make
is
people act crazy.
I think that it makes people act crazy because change needs to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And to think that the politics don't affect your magic sphere, your rights in general, Like it might start off with something that feels disconnected from you, but eventually they will come after you. It is civil rights at some point. It will affect your rights. So caring about other people in the end will also protect you and protect your rights because if
Oh,
Black people are do not have the freedoms that they need, if Mexican Americans are don't have
I
the freedoms that they
understand
need,
that.
you're next.
Yes, but the whole
So
thing
to
is that's an organization that's supposed to be about magic. Why am I hearing about other things? It could have been fucking anything else, honestly. I also didn't agree that, I mean, the church's doors are open and Horace is too scared. Why is the place closed because of COVID? The churches are open. I didn't agree with that either. I thought that was a little silly. And then to tell us that 93% of the people voted that they are not comfortable going there being vaccinated when I can tell you me, Jason, Jordan, Michael, and probably about five other people never got that survey. So how did you get 93%, which sounds cute for the OTO,
sure.
to tell everybody that now you can't even come in unless you get jabbed? Fuck you. I'm supposed to be a magician, yet I'm going to be under someone's thumb? Are you fucking crazy?
I hear what you're saying. I just think
I
that
just
you're
won't
just
go. If people are scared, then I'll just stay home and practice on my own.
I just think that you are separating things that aren't necessarily separated. Like these things do affect each other. And I get what you're saying, right? You're there for magic. You don't necessarily want to hear someone's personal opinion. I get that. I totally do. But I don't think that you can exist in a sphere where politics don't affect you and affect your rights. Like, especially nowadays, like the politics are infringing on people's rights every single day. And that will come for your ability to practice magic at some point. But
All I have to do is
there's
close
other
my
steps to get
eyes.
there.
I mean, yeah, doing that in a jail cell would probably suck. But I mean, I could practice magic just by closing my eyes. That's all I have to
Yeah, but you don't want rights for yourself. You don't want freedom
do.
for yourself. You
I
don't want
know,
freedom for
yeah. I just,
others.
again, I just don't understand why I'm just saying it's an organization that's not supposed to be talking about that is. And it just was weird and uncomfortable. Again, they could have been far right. And I would have actually felt more comfortable telling them to go suck a dick if they were far right. Tell you the truth. Neither one I want to hear about.
Why would you feel more comfortable telling them to suck a dick about if they were far right though?
Oh,
Because you
because
disagree with
if I
that?
tell somebody on, yeah, actually, of course I do. Sick. I mean, it was just I shit on Nazis all the time on my show.
Sure, yes. That's a
Yeah.
good thing to do, but I just feel like you're saying there shouldn't be politics, but then you have double standards when it comes to politics.
Oh no, I shit on both sides. I talk on
Okay.
both sides.
Yeah.
Yes, I will
I,
show the way both sides mentally manipulate us to get us into conversations like this now.
well, I mean, I don't think that we're separated. I think I'm just having a conversation with you because I'm interested
Oh
in
yeah,
like
no, oh
genuinely
I know.
understanding your point of view. Like I think it's very interesting when people try to separate magic from politics. I think that like they affect each other whether we like it or not, and we can pretend like they don't because it's kind of convenient. But ultimately, we live in a country where like it affects our everyday. It affects our lives, and I would love separation of church and state. I would absolutely love that, but unfortunately, that's just not our existence. But I agree with you. I do think that like
I mean, put it this way: since Trump got elected again, I haven't paid attention to the fucking news, and I seem pretty happy, and I don't feel oppressed.
you don't feel oppressed.
No, I mean, I have no idea what that fucking retard's doing, and I feel
Yeah.
totally fine. I don't pay attention to the news anymore. It's cancer.
Well, I think that the reason you don't feel affected is because you're a white male. I feel affected.
Again, even when Biden was in, what was so horrible that happened to all of us? Nothing. All the shit the right was saying that was going to happen, nothing happened. It's all
Yeah.
fucking propaganda.
Well, I think that the fact that like there are Mexican Americans being taken from their homes that they lived in for years,
Oh
is
yeah, that's fucked
does
up.
that does affect my life in a very active, real way. As someone who's very, I'm not Mexican American myself, but as someone who's very close to the Mexican American community, yeah, there are things that are definitely affecting my life, and I feel like it doesn't affect you because of your position and who you
Well, if I
are.
paid attention to it, it would piss me off. I don't want to know what the shit he's doing. I think he's a fucking psycho, and that's why I don't pay attention to his shit because then I'll get triggered and I'll be worrying about what he's doing instead of writing a show for myself.
Yeah, I definitely understand, but I also think that that's a privilege to disconnect and be able to be fine. But I don't blame you for it. I think it's very natural to want to focus on the things that you can control, and I think a lot of times that is an act of self-preservation, which is important.
I mean, the guy's rolling pre-crime in. I should be freaking the fuck out, and I'm not. I want to focus on my work.
Yeah, yeah. But eventually it'll affect your work. It'll affect your ability to speak about your work. So,
If it all ever happens,
um,
I don't know. That's a whole.
hopefully not. Hopefully not. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Because I have really big plans for my work too, and I really, really hope that no one ever takes away my ability to share my work and to share my point of view. So, I agree with you in a lot of ways. I also just want to challenge a couple things that you said from my own personal point of view, especially as someone who is um, a minority within a minority.
gotcha. You're welcome.
Um, so now that you've stepped away from, organized the OTO, do you, and going circling back to the conversation about community, do you find community within your podcast? Like,
Oh
or
yeah.
do you think that community is important to you?
Oh yeah. Well, maybe just to keep you sane, you're gonna need some people
Yeah.
too, and in person, not just on a screen. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah. No, it definitely helps. There is a community amongst me and the people on the show. I mean, there's for the most part the people that I podcast with now. The Cold Rejects has been out for about 5 years. I had a different co-host for about the first year and a half, and then kind of went off on my own, but brought people on to cover topics with. I started kind of just revolving certain people that I was like, oh, I worked well with this guy. He seemed cool. And then eventually I just started keeping them on and then found some more people. And then, we kind of made it. It was always the Occult Rejects, but, now it actually really is Rejects. Like, it was a bunch of us. But I forgot where I was going with this again. Oh, yeah, the community. Yeah. A lot of these people now, what I'm getting at, I've been working with for like 3.5 years, 3 years, consistently. My friend Jin the Ninja, the Headless Giant, Teresa from the Spiritual Gangsters. And they all have different backgrounds. I mean, we even have a Catholic that comes on the show sometimes, and she could totally kick it with the occultism and adds her 2 cents in to fit the topic. So, yeah, I definitely have a lot of good friends that I've made podcasting. Like I have even told you though, unfortunately, it is probably not the place you really think it is when you first get into it. So, people I thought I might have been cool with at the beginning, maybe they weren't too authentic, but I do think I have actually found some like real friends, people I've met personally too now, from the show. And then there's people that I do know personally from like events and stuff that I've gone to, that I can consider, part of the community. I for sure, I will put it this way. The people that I consider friends in my life now either do, really more than likely from the podcast, whether it's in person or over the phone or on the screen, by far much better friends and more fulfilling than it was prior. These people, like some people on the show, I guess you don't realize, like, you're not trying to impress people and you're actually being yourself. And those people accept you like that's a real friend. And like a lot of us have all done that on the show. Like we really weren't trying to, maybe at first they're trying to impress me because like, oh my God, he asked me to come on the show. But, eventually, like, you start to, become real with people. And we've all accepted each other for that. And a lot of us don't think all the same either, you know, and we're all like really, really close.
I think that's wonderful. You've been able to create your own community. And I hear you because you and I have had personal conversations about the kind of content creation space. And I feel like podcast falls underneath that, not being quite what you think it is, especially within like certain sectors. And but I feel like in order to find those really amazing people who are like life changing and to build your community, sometimes you've got to filter through some bullshit. you know
Oh,
not
yeah.
everyone you meet is going to be right for you, and sometimes that lesson might be a lot harder, and sometimes you might immediately meet somebody and be like, yeah, that person's not for me. And then sometimes it might take you some more time, but eventually, I feel like that's kind of been I mean, I'm very new to the content creation space, but that's already been my experience. Is some people I meet I realize almost immediately they're not for me. And then I've also met some really, really incredibly like life-changing friends at the same time. And I have a lot of gratitude for that, but it also comes with a price as well. And I think that that's just friendship and community in general is like it's worth it, but there's sometimes a really heavy price to pay.
Mm. Oh, you know, it's another thing too that I do wouldn't even mention it. It's not like I'm trying to pat myself on the back here, but like I think like half of the show, if not even more than half of it, they were all fans at first. And I
Hmm.
just had them on as a guest, tried them for a topic. And now they all have their own shows too. So I mean
What?
they even
Yeah.
started off as fans and like it's just amazing to see like what I'm getting at is not a lot of podcasters will even entertain that. They
Yeah.
big names. I was like there is so many people that don't have a name that are into this stuff that have so much to say.
Yeah. I would totally
Just because they're
agree.
not popular doesn't mean they aren't intelligent. And I try to look for that. And you know, during doing that, I have like met some really amazing people.
First of all, I think that you're allowed to pat yourself on the back for that. I think that giving other people a platform and lifting up other people is something to be very proud of. And if anyone makes you feel weird about that, they can get fucked. Second of
Yeah.
all, I've experienced that a lot. So Justin Witch of Enchantment is like very publicly my friend. And when I first came into the content creation space and I was talking to him about starting it, he said to me, he was like, "Sweetie, there's room here for all of us to be successful." And he like brought me on his show before I ever started my channel. I did like a live lecture on there. He opened up his Discord for me. I have a channel in his Discord solely for me because I don't have a Discord. Like
Oh, that's
from
awesome.
beginning, from the beginning. And, we had known each other for a minute, but we became really close over the summer. And so he barely knew me and was like, just like, he was like, however I can help you be successful, I'll be successful. And like people like him, or like you, who are willing to, it doesn't matter who you are, like you still see people and want to like build them up, I think is like such a necessary part. And I agree with him. There's so many people out there. This doesn't need to be a competitive space. Like there's really room for all of us to win and all of us have an interesting viewpoint. So I it makes me sad sometimes when I do meet people who are really competitive because it's just not necessary.
I totally agree.
Let me get back off my soapbox and go back to you. So have you ever experienced like a dark night of the soul? Or
Ooh,
what is if
oof,
unless you've had multiple descents, but what do you think that one of your descents has been?
ooh. Oh man, there's a couple that I could. Uh, I will have to probably say. I mean, I guess it would be the first time I. Well, maybe the first time I crossed the abyss. Uh,
So when you say you cross the abyss, can you explain more about what that means?
all right. Um, could get a little dark. Uh,
I'm not scared.
in my opinion, and people may not totally agree with this, and maybe some people will. I've actually come across a lot of people who listen to my show that seem to agree with me, so maybe I'm not so crazy. Just like shamanism and kind of like NDEs, you're going to have to separate your soul from your body and kind of temporarily commit suicide, in my opinion. It's technically you're going to have to take yourself out to have a magical experience across the abyss. That's just my opinion. Um, Not that I went the route of this, but in my opinion, Flatliners, that movie is extremely real because that's basically the same thing. When you look at what shamanism is, they push themselves to practically death. You hear people who have NDEs and they have almost the same experiences. I do think crossing the abyss, you are letting your soul slip out of your flesh and you are actually having an experience with God eventually.
I mean, I think that there's something to be said about that because a lot of people who have like NDEs, like you said, near-death experiences, a lot of them have similar things to say. But also, I feel like coming from a psychedelic point of view, a lot of people who use psychedelics in order to experience
Yeah.
ego deaths, depending on like whether it be
That
ayahuasca,
too, I left
mushrooms,
that out.
whatever you do, like that also it's not exactly a physical death, but more of a like ego death, and a lot of people have
Yeah, I think
experience
it
with
thins the
that.
veil very much for a person.
Sure, yeah. So what was your experience like?
Well, every time, or just like real quick, every time I do have this experience, I've had it four times. Um, there is a physical feeling and visuals I see every time. So that's like even another thing, like how I know it's even coming on. what I'm getting there. Well, I know what I'm doing. What am I saying? I know what I'm doing when I'm doing it anyway. But after the first time, because of that experience, and I guess explaining to you what I think I experienced, you're going to have to start questioning everything that you've believed prior. Well, my opinion for the way I grew up. Not that I'm comparing myself to him, but I mean, technically only well-known religious people die and come back. So for somebody to even come out and start even thinking that is even like a little weird. But whenever I come back from these experiences, I don't know how to explain it, but it is as if like I get shown things that were inside my brain prior that I didn't understand being put together as a puzzle and it making sense to me. Not to sound like the Matrix or Neo. It's not that drastic where he's like, oh, I know Kung Fu. But you will wake up, or I will wake up, and know shit I did not understand and know prior. All of a sudden, it's like it just starts getting rewired in my head and I almost hear like, it's almost as like a voice, really, is like telling you, look at this. You know, it's very weird. I've had, you know, that experience happens every time. There's been times when I open up my eyes from this experience and everything looks like it's basically just light shooting up and then changing into everything that's around me. Um, the things that I saw in these experiences make you wonder about what NASA's showing you because it was very much like outer space to an extent. It's just really weird to where you have to start wondering, like, what's this reality? You know, is it really as dense as we think it is? I don't want to make it sound like a matrix, but you start to wonder, like, how real is this? And for me, that shattered, you know, everything that I had believed prior to understanding how the world works was completely shattered. And I think in that point, my opinion, I think, you know, shadow work is very, very important to even have this experience, but I think it's going to actually be much more, if not as important, you know, if not as important, but much more important, dealing with what's going to go through your head after you have this experience or try to make sense of it. And that could be, I guess, maybe my dark night of the soul, because it's like, one, I had realized I've probably been lied to and misunderstood. And now I have to sit here and try to think, am I crazy and have I lost it, or am I actually onto something? And that gets scary. Physically, I didn't feel good for a few days. Um, that was like weird. So it was just like, I mean, there's other stuff. At one point, you know, the last time I did it, I ended up in the hospital because I was just like, something's wrong. Every time I do it, my one eyeball blows open and the other one gets smaller.
You
Uh,
mean your pupil, right?
yes. I don't know if
Yeah.
like people might have seen a couple of, I don't know, months ago. I was saying the Liver King, I think, does the same shit. He was talking shit about Joe Rogan, and I think like the guy Joe Rogan and the pressing charges on him, whatever, some big, you know, fucking bullshit spiel. But as he's going on, acting like an asshole on the video, one pupil's blown up and the other one's pinned. I was like, yeah, the guy just came back from the abyss and he's fucking lost his fucking mind for the next few days. He's not going to make any sense and he's just going to talk trash. So, like, for me, you know, coming back, yeah. So, like, I've had that. I ended up having an issue with my blood, which was really interesting. It only happened after that. So, like, even like progressively, or even maybe the last one, when it had brought me to that, to even going to the hospital, there was just like a lot of stuff that was shattering my ideas of existence. I don't know what it is that made me think this, but because of one of those experiences, something just popped up in my head and said, look into the eyeballs in the brain. I don't know why. And then I started looking into that and I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, there's so many sigils and symbolism in here. It's fucking insane. And then you start realizing, like, what I thought magic is, the idea that the OTO gave me or any other place, this ain't it. And I think I was a little bit resentful for that to begin with, because if what I do think is actually happening, and if I really did experience crossing the abyss, I think you should be a little bit more open about what somebody's going to go through and what their experience is going to be, and stop with so many fucking secrets. Because I don't think it's healthy for somebody to have that experience not really knowing what the fuck they're doing. Because again, if you're not mentally strong enough for it, I do think it will warp your mind and fuck you up.
Do you think that
And I'm
we're
not
meant
patting
to
myself on the back saying I was a gangster because I dealt with some serious shit in my head to be able to get to where I am now after these experiences.
do you think that we're meant to have that experience?
Yes. Yes, I do. I think we all have the power. It doesn't matter who you are, how shitty of a person you've ever been. We all have the chance to have a conscious contact with God.
Do you think that everyone can handle it though?
No, I barely
That's
could. I'm keeping it
so
real. I'm keeping it real. I barely could.
because this is my thing. It's like I don't think that psychedelics are is for everyone. And
No,
some
no.
people would argue, but I don't think that psychedelics is for everyone. I don't think that accessing certain information is right for everyone because not everyone is meant to handle that kind of information.
I will not promote drug use. Let me just preface this. Even when I had these experiences, I wasn't even smoking weed anymore. The only time all these experiences actually were pre-COVID, right before COVID. And due to COVID, I was just like, yo, just for me to go out in public and deal with like life, I'm gonna have to start fucking getting high again. I shit you not, I started smoking weed again just to fucking deal with the situation. So I was totally drug free when I had my experiences. I don't promote drugs because I didn't need them, but yes, I do think they can help aid if used correctly.
So, you know what I think we haven't clarified is how do you even access crossing the abyss, you specifically?
Ooh. Uh, I'm gonna be totally honest with you. Probably like the last, it's 6 months, maybe 6 to 8 months of my practice. I'm just telling you from my experience. So like I really, what I'm saying, for me to tell somebody how to get there, I can really only tell them what I did. Um, well, first off, meditation, 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 meditation. You better learn how to meditate. And well, for me, I needed to learn how to meditate and to quiet my mind. But the last, like again, 6 to 8 months before the experiences, I was heavily, heavily into chakra work, visualizations, breathing techniques, and tons of shadow work and praying. I was praying constantly about, please remove these things that are making me a motherfucking piece of shit. I don't want to be this person anymore because this is taking me away from having an experience with God. It was tons. It doesn't sound edgy or gothy. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of it was literally like doing Kabbalistic stuff and praying to God. Certain ideas on this tree of that idea of God. A lot of it was a lot of work like that. Basically, there was times I fucking cried and begged because I did not want to be the motherfucker I was anymore. And I don't know if it was that, but at some point I had to even realize that I'm so fucked up that I can have morals and values that actually contradict each other depending on what situation I'm in or how the way I want to look at things. And I was just like, yo, this just isn't working for me anymore. It was almost like war games when the computer was just like, you know what? The best way to win is don't even play the fucking game anymore, bro. And I don't know if I was just so done with the experience of being here on earth and just wanting to, transcend to something else. But eventually, when I went into my meditations, I just started to notice something different and held on to that. There's a certain visual that I had noticed that if I hold on to that and quiet my mind and don't fear it and just let it happen, it happens.
So, what do you see?
All the way, it will get extremely, extremely, extremely dark. Like, like when you close your eyes and you meditate, for you, maybe you understand. After a while, it just seems to get darker because your eyes are probably been closed and you're not so focused on the outside world. So, like, when I'm saying now, when you're meditating for a while and it's, real dark with your eyes closed, um, it's almost as if this is another thing. I always focus on my pineal gland when I'm doing this. I'm pressing on it. That may sound crazy, but for people who can actually feel them spinning or sense the pressure of the chakra, I can. I would always focus on my pineal and push on it. And at some point, when I would do that, all of a sudden it would look like oil spilled across the black that I had already thought was black to make it a lot darker, like completely black. And then all of a sudden, I don't want to sound cheesy, but I do question if this is the blazing star. I see this one little pin dot of this burning light in this darkness. And if I focus on it with my pineal gland and kind of hold on to it, it starts to come closer. And then all of a sudden it turns into like this eclipse, which is hence why I have eclipses all over all my stuff. It's even on my logo. That's even resembling an image that I see before it happens. I will see it looks like an eclipse. And then all of a sudden, it will start to look like explosions around it. And then it almost like looks like they turn more reddish than orange, and it starts to look like roses blooming around this eclipse. And then all of a sudden, it just all that goes away, and then it's like you get all these like fluorescent, almost thermal camera looking. Like, there's colors that I can't even explain. The way it looks, I can't even explain how to say it's not neon, it's not thermal. It's really weird, and you'll see these colors come out like of this sphere, and then start spinning, and it almost looks like vibrations or like a record spinning of all these different like. I've been told that's the Rainbow Bridge, where it's like coming at you, and it's just like really ominous. And at this point, I don't hear a fucking thing anymore. It's like I practically went deaf. And I'm just seeing that. And then all of a sudden, I'll get like these sacred geometry almost symbols, like spinning and just like coming at me. And then that will end. And then you'll see what I use on my logo. The best way for me to explain it is if maybe I was like standing in a subway and two cars were coming past me, but real slow. And you can see inside each window. It's like out of the eclipse or on the sides of the eclipse, there's like these windows just coming out. Almost look like monoliths with like, just looks like different places and different times or something. And they start coming out. And it just keeps going for a little bit. And then all of a sudden those disappear. And then it's like the eclipse and it's just like burning. And then instead of normally pulling apart when you watch the moon wax or wane, well, I've noticed it's different in North Carolina than New York. It's not always left to right or right to left. You know what I'm saying? It will go from just like Toth's headdress, it will pull from the bottom up. And you start to see the black sphere that's in front of the white slowly lift up, which starts to give it a crescent. And eventually, it almost looks like a smiley face. And then totally lifts off the white. And then it's like if I look down the barrel of the gun and pull the trigger, it's like hits me. It feels like I get shot right in the head. And then all of a sudden, I start feeling all that shit where I can literally feel my soul suck out the top of my head where the Jews put their little yarmulke. I can literally feel it go through my body. I have never felt so alive until I died. Shit you not. That is the one time I actually felt fucking alive, is in that situation. And then when that happens, it's as if everything just melts right off of you. Every worry, every hate, every fear is fucking gone. And the only thing I feel and experience is a feeling of love that I never could even imagine here. It's better than any sex I've ever had, and it's better than any drug I've taken. It is 10 times stronger than the feeling I've ever thought I felt of love here. And it just radiates. And you're just a part of something, and you're not thinking about your iPhone, you're not thinking about your boyfriend, what's going on the news. You're actually just sitting there in love with just existing. So fucking different. And then as soon as you think of self, but damn, you're done. Right back to your body and your eyes open up. Fucking over. You just disconnected yourself from God because you thought of yourself. I look at it as I walked away from God, and I'm the one who has to do the work to get back to him.
How does one get back to God?
I honestly think prayer, meditation, and rituals, and being completely, utterly honest with yourself. I know it sounds cheesy, but a lot of meditation too.
Do you think that that is part of your, do you think that that's part of your purpose is to be closer to God?
Yes, I think that's everybody's purpose here. This may sound screwed up, but I think from a kiss to a senseless murder is all just showing the discontent of our soul being taken away from God and the source. This is all acts of just us being uncomfortable in the skin we're in, and we look for ways to feel better about it. And that sounds hard, but I don't think we're meant to be here.
Where do you
We're,
think we're meant to be?
we're meant to be much better than this, so much greater. We're meant to be free and to be love, because that's what we are, and that's what God is. Pure
What do you,
love stuck in the flesh.
why do you think that we're here then?
For me, I don't know. I made a choice for some reason, I think. I don't know. I've even wondered, are we the fallen angels? And we're just like, yo, we fucked up and we gotta get back, man.
What do you think happens to us after we die?
We go somewhere else. It's not over. People should not, my opinion, don't fear death. It's gonna suck. You're gonna lose the things that you love, the stuff that you're attached to, but you're gonna have another experience again. Might be a blade of grass or a cat. Maybe you'll luck out and actually be a cat. Fuck, I'd like that next time. Just fucking give me food and let me sleep all fucking day. Yo, for all you know, when those guys are sleeping all day, they're jumping the abyss themselves or meditating. They might have a great fucking life in their head. Yeah, basically, people clean up my shit and give me food all day. Who's got it made? You know? But no, I honestly do think energy is just energy. Uh, it's not destroyed. We will continue to go on some fashion or form. I think the whole thing, though, with reincarnation, I think for the most part, there's no memory of the past. That's the problem. I think having an experience in magic, you can have the memory. That's the difference.
So if I correct me if I'm wrong, for a while you felt like you didn't really want to exist, and this crossing into the abyss has given you hope and given you reason to continue.
Oh yeah, I don't think I knew who I was or my purpose was until then. Like I've
Hmm.
said before, I'm not trying to knock it because I was one of those people always going around thinking, oh yeah, do what thou wilt. I know if it's my will, I'll do it.
Hmm.
I did not know who I was or what my will was until I've crossed the abyss. That's just my opinion.
Which for anyone who doesn't know anything about Thelema, it's one of the like basic tenets.
Yeah, which is a beautiful thing, and unfortunately, people twist it. And not even
Yeah.
saying people in the orders, conspiracy theories. It's like, do you ever forget about the love is the law part? Do we forget about that? Because that actually sounds pretty fucking sweet, doesn't it? Love is the law, man. What else is wrong with that? You know what I'm saying? Do what thou will. That whole phrase, that includes love is the law. Why do people fuck this whole thing off?
Okay. I have a challenging question, and we don't have to include this.
Mhm.
If you think that love is so important, why don't you want to stick up for people who are less privileged than you?
Because I think if we all had these experiences, we wouldn't even be in these positions.
But we don't all have those experiences.
But I think we need to, though. I would even say if you just start practicing at what I'm saying to do to have an experience with God, people would change regardless if they even had the experience.
But I think in order to have your experience, you need to have a certain amount of privilege.
Maybe.
And in order to access that privilege, and we need people like you to help other people who are less
Yeah.
privileged.
But I do think this is a bad example. I'm sorry, and it's just maybe you picked the wrong order. I'm pretty sure there's a dude, I forgot his name, that was major name in the OTO that did cross the abyss from his jail cell. So I mean, you even do have who's that kid from the West Memphis Three? He did pretty well for himself being locked up.
Damien Eccles.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just playing devil's advocate and playing with you. You know what I'm saying? But
Well, I think that there's something to be said about having your needs met. And I mean, in jail, like I guess your basic needs are met, yeah, but you have nothing else to do. But I wouldn't
listen, I'm
suggest
not going to
that.
sit here and condemn myself for the unfortunate fucking way I was born. I did not ask to be born in Suffolk County by a white fucking family with privileges. I can't help that. I'm sorry.
I don't think you need to apologize for it. But I do think that there's something to be said about helping other people if you do have
What do
privilege.
you think I'm doing with this podcast? I'm helping motherfuckers all day.
Yeah, sure.
So why do I got to get specific on it? Because if I stick up for one, there's obviously division from the other. I'm not playing that game. My
Hmm.
message is for everybody. And when it comes to
Yeah,
politics and everything else, I don't give a fuck. I'm here for people to have a connection with God. Everything else, you have a million other people to go listen to for that. That's not me.
yeah,
There's enough motherfuckers out there with the shit you're talking about running their mouths all day. Go listen to them. I'm here to have a conscious contact with God, and that eliminates everything else. Sorry.
yeah. I mean, I don't think you need to apologize for it. I'm just curious on your standpoint because to me, I feel like if you have a certain amount of privilege, you get a certain amount of access, which is one of the things that I've noticed a lot about ceremonial magic is a lot of it comes from privilege and having the time and having your needs already met so that you can access certain things and have certain time for certain things Not everyone, ceremonial magic is not accessible for everyone. So it's just an interesting conversation that I'm wanting to pick your brain about.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, one thing, and again, this isn't to go back and forth. One thing I do want to add, after the first experience that I had when I crossed the abyss, I was again blown away, taken back, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna cut down to the basics, and I'm just gonna meditate. I did no rituals. I lit nothing. I just sat in a chair and I meditated, and I still did it 3 more times. I just needed somewhere to sit and close my eyes. Again, I'm not just, I'm not trying to go back at you, but I'm just saying, like, that cost me nothing.
You
Meditating is
have
free.
meditation is free, and I agree that meditation is an incredible tool that everyone has
But I do get
access
what you're
to.
saying. I'm not discrediting what you're saying because I will say, and this is even a thing I'm going to cover in one of my herbs. So this might be a little controversial. I'm coming out with an herb book and its effects on the nervous system. Um, where am I going with this? I'm trying to think of how the way I'm going to word this. There's a lot of times where I think if you're looking at the what you're using that herb for, when you burn it and it affects your vagus system or your cranial nerves, you're going to think whatever you're doing actually worked because it's going to give you that sensation, believe it or not. Long story short, it's very expensive to actually be a ceremonial magician if you want to start fucking with all these herbs and all these crystals and all these things that I actually don't think is 100% necessary to use. But unfortunately, the way the community, I think, has grown, the more trinkets and things you have, the better of a magician you are. So I myself included, probably spent way more money than I should have on crystals, believe it or not. And now I look back at it and just think it was a waste. But yes, if you want to get into this stuff, odds are it's going to be expensive if you want to do it the way it seems to be being done visually everywhere else.
Hmm.
I mean, if you look at certain Buddhists, there's like certain like again, like I'm even covering oh, for an event that I've been possibly asked to speak at. There was a topic I was going to cover with shamanism and NDEs. Oh, fuck, I totally forgot where I was going with this. I'm so sorry. I just had a brain fart.
You're
Fuck.
fine. We're talking about herbs. So, we can move into kind of like how you find sovereignty. So, like, you've gone through this crossing the abyss multiple times, and it's kind of giving you purpose and brought you closer to God. Um, how has the occult and that experience like really changed your life? Like, you wanted to be less of a shitty person? Do you think that you now are less of a shitty person?
Yeah. In some ways, yes. In some ways, I still have to change. Uh,
Yeah.
fuck no. Of course not. I've made horrible decisions and choices since I've been podcasting. You know, keep it real. I'm human. Uh, but no, it does. If I stay true to what the vision is that I had for this show and don't try to sell myself too much, I feel very fulfilled and feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. In podcasting, maybe it's hard for people to understand, but like, in my opinion, unfortunately, I can't tell you about the cult community. I would probably assume, but in the conspiracy community, things may not be what it seems. You're going to probably have to, cuck for a click or somebody that's in a club to get anywhere. It's going to take a lot of hard work on your own. Uh, and I would refuse to do that. So, um, there's times it's just like, maybe you will entertain guests that you normally wouldn't just to get your name out. You know what I'm saying? Or just do certain things. You're using the other person really for a name. I'll keep it real. I'm not comfortable with doing that anymore. That is a huge thing that's done in podcasting. So I just actually try to keep to what I think my purpose is. And if I have to, just do more work to get that done. You've seen yourself, I do a lot of solo shows now. That is because I don't want to start veering off the path just to try to get more fame. So when I am doing that, I feel very fulfilled. I feel like I'm doing something. I feel better about myself. My days go better. You know, things happen that are supposed to happen. You know, doors open up for me that I didn't even know was possible. Never thought of. I mean, just even honestly meeting you. I mean, that's just and Ivy. That was just something I never would have thought. I mean, I knew who Ivy was 2 years ago. I was trying to get her on the show, but yeah, it's just certain things. Even other occultists I've had on the show, like blown away that like I even got to have a conversation with them. Never would have thought 5 years ago I'd have been doing that. And I get to learn, and that makes me feel good too.
I feel
No,
like when
and one
more
thing I
random
just want to add, just real quick, the one thing too, and again, kind of like maybe what I was saying to you before, there were so many people that already cover the occult in certain ways. I want to look at it a little bit different, and I do feel like that's actually being entertained and appreciated. And people aren't thinking I'm crazy. And when they actually look at what I'm saying, they're like, oh, this guy might be onto something. So that makes me feel a little bit better too. It makes me, let's be totally honest. But yeah, I try to look at it, again, from the science side and the eyeball. I did a whole series on the eyeball symbolism and even stuff with like, eventually when I show stuff from Italy and Rome, there's tons of eyeball symbolism. I think that, but that seems to be catching on. And you know, that's cool. I like that. It's a little bit different. Again, like I said, it's not all dicks and demons. There is some science, I think, into it.
What would your advice be to someone who's like trying to find inspiration or trying to find sovereignty or maybe are in a similar place before you had your experiences?
Cheesy as it is, probably meditate and pray.
Hmm.
And I think you'll end up getting answers that way. Either it'll be like just weird decisions you make or an idea that pops into your head. As cheesy as it is, I do think if you talk to your higher self, talk back to you at some point, if you're being honest. And that just sounds cheesy, but I really do think prayer and meditation and letting go of the fears and as if you're willing to get there where you want to go and just keep putting the one foot forward, you'll get where you're going. You get where you want to go. You know, um, and not saying that like not pushing it too hard, but I do think like you may have to drop some fears, you know, but it will be well worth it after the fact. I wish I could say something a little bit more serious or grander than that, but I really do
I
think,
think that's very serious. And I think that there's something to be said about the simplicity of it. While meditation is not simple, it takes a lot of work and dedication for a lot of people, especially in today's day where we really struggle with stimulation addiction and the way that our we're constantly over inundated with stimulation. Sitting with oneself is incredibly difficult, but it is accessible to everyone. Maybe not everyone has quite as much time because of work
yeah.
and stuff like that, but
Oh no, of
ultimately,
course.
if you
Yeah.
can, yeah, if you can
I
find
was doing
pockets
that
of
shit at three
time,
thirty in the morning. I was like, this shit sucks. I don't want to do this before I go to work.
yeah. But I mean, like, it is accessible to everyone and it is free. And I think that there's something to be said, especially people who are newer to like the magic sphere from the
Mm.
outside. You said there's like crystals and like the way that capitalism has infiltrated the way
Oh,
that we look
oh
at magic.
God, yeah, that is horrible too. The amount of money you got to pay for this shit is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
Or
fucking
like books and stuff
disgusting.
like that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm not going on about that, but you're right. The capitalism in the witchcraft community is fucking disgusting.
It's a lot.
It's like, yo,
So,
why can I go walk into a bodega and buy the same herbs in a bag for half the price?
yeah, it doesn't have the pretty label on it
But
though.
it's just as good.
Yeah. Or I would say
You can
even
actually
like
eat it
connecting.
if you wanted to.
Yeah, sure. Or connecting to plant spirits outside and maybe switching out correspondences for
Yeah.
things that like feel that energy and ask yourself, use your own intuition. Ultimately, like I feel like there's power in that. Magic is accessible to everybody, but I think that a lot of people who are newer to this space don't quite understand. But what I
Yeah.
think that first and foremost, meditation is accessible to everyone, but you have to keep working at it. And I think that there's something very beautiful and poignant about the simplicity of your answer. What are you currently blooming into? How can people find you? What exciting projects do you have coming up?
I do have I'm working on some solar and lunar temples that just some like basic info about them. I'm working on that to put out. I do have I should be working on Joanna's Kepler soon. That is one thing that I do on the Occult Rejects. I try to cover a lot of people from the past. Yeah, a lot of them actually. I've been taking off the Gnostic Saints list from the OTO. I don't even think half the people notice that I'm doing that. It's like, whatever. And plus, it's kind of just like, it's funny in my mind. It's kind of like for the people that have like a bad idea about it, it's like if you start realizing you like all these dudes I'm putting on there, it's like, it's almost kind of like I'm trolling them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, these are all the Gnostic saints, but yet you shit on the OTO and you fucking enjoy these people and think they got something to say. It's just funny to me. Um, but no, I do a lot of that. So I have like a solo Johannes Kepler show that I'm going to be working on. One thing I will be covering soon, if some people are interested in like actual video stuff. I have been to Untermeyer Park, that was in the Bronx, and it is like occult stuff behind it. A lot of architecture, some really cool stuff. I did a lot of filming and I got a lot of drone work. I'm gonna put that out soon, and me and the other rejects will cover some of the symbolism, as pointed out, and even Coral Castle in Florida I've been to recently, and I got a bunch of footage from there. We should be showing you like the architecture and all that stuff. Because I do think there's a lot of magic going on in a lot of those megaliths and architecture and stuff. I do think when you start looking at how all that stuff works, I think that's another form of magic in a sense. So I cover all sorts of things on the show. So if people are interested, I got that stuff coming up, and it is the Occult Rejects, and that is available on BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, and all major podcasts. You might be able to check it out on Twitter Live. Sometimes I don't have the live, but other guys on the show do, and they stream out. So, yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful for your time and your story. I really appreciate and I'm grateful to have your vulnerability and you sharing so much about yourself with us. It is a really big deal. If you like this conversation today and would like to see more of my work, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you're already subscribed, thank you so much for your support. You can further help support my work by liking, commenting, sharing. All of it helps keep the sacred work flowing. I'm also on Instagram if you would like to follow me there underneath my name, Serena Saint-Sinclair. Thank you so much for being here, and as always, may your path be sacred, your shadow sovereign, and may you always bloom wildly. I'll see you next time. I'm going to cut that out. You're going to get me in trouble.
I'm just being serious.
I think you're being honest. I'm cutting that out because you're trying to get me canceled. First of all, we already argue about politics. Now you're telling
I'm sorry.